a couple different boxes, and some old possessions from my childhood, which is symbolic of innocence. So it was literally fulfilled at the very, right as the year 2023 was beginning. And that was also whenever all that healing was going through, and I saw a bunch of people um going through the healing. I went through the tremendous amount of healing and worked through it with a very close friend of mine. Hey everyone, hope everyone's having a great weekend so far. I usually do a prophetic word at the end of each year, but with the circumstances that happened last year, I decided to not do it, but I felt that the need to actually put this out. Basically, the it's a review for 23 and the prophetic word for 24, but I'll also take it back a little bit further. So we know, if you've been following me for long enough, you'll know that since I think it was like the end of 2019, I would put out a prophetic word for the following year. And each year so far, it has been correct. Everything has been landed correctly, even though many times I would have no idea how it would play out, but I knew how it would an idea how it would look like. So obviously with 2020, we had COVID that began everything, and I titled the whole thing for 2020 as that year at the beginning. But I also knew that it was something that the Lord was starting in the background, and many times we don't recognize long-term stuff, especially something that takes like years to fulfill unless you actually have the eyes to see it. So 2020 it began, and it was also the year of like when what I call, I guess, the mystics, or the mystic movement, however you want to call it, began to rise up a little bit. So 21, I titled it going back to the roots, but I also knew it was basically breaking off it would basically be breaking off a foundation that was not good. I remember in the dream I had for that for that prophetic word, it showed this hollow cave. Since then, of course, I've gotten more information, and I'll probably release that later on. But that's not the focus for this video. But 21, going back to the roots, rebuilding the foundation, basically became known as deconstruction. And I've gone through it myself. I continue to go through it. Deconstruction is a good thing if you have the right leadership. If you don't have the right leadership, you don't have the right foundation, you're gonna fall fall out of your faith altogether and basically lose your faith. Versus if you do have the right leadership, do have a good background, and are balanced, then you'll come through with it with an even stronger faith. Then we got 2022, which I titled as breaking the cycles, and that came true, of course. And like I just mentioned about the whole thing with deconstruction in 21, um, every year there's going to be an opposite with breaking cycles. Obviously, those who do break the cycles that they're in are going to be good. They're continuing on that path towards the Lord. But if they don't, they're just going to continue the cycles. And so I saw a large amount of people breaking the cycles throughout that year. I think I don't follow hashtags, but I do know that whenever I was watching throughout that year, I saw a bunch of hashtags that went along the lines of breaking cycles. That was in my opinion, it was trending, but again, I don't follow hashtags, but I remember seeing that a lot. Then, of course, last year I released as the basically year of healing, the restoration of faith and purity, and that last year was difficult because I went through a tremendous amount of healing, and my dad gave me I posted on my Facebook and YouTube that I was given a well, that's not on. There we go. I was given a couple different boxes and some old possessions from my childhood, which is symbolic of innocence. So it was literally fulfilled at the very, right as the year 2023 was beginning, and that was also whenever all that healing was going through, and I saw a bunch of people um going through the healing. I went through the tremendous amount of healing and worked through it with a very close friend of mine. Me and her, we went through it together and just helped each other through it, and I saw other people that I spoke with back and forth during their during their healing. Even people I didn't speak with, they went through their healing all through 23. But what I didn't realize, it wasn't until the time frame whenever I usually get the prophetic word for the next year, I wasn't getting anything, and then the Lord said, "Oh, by the way, this is the other half." So I'm now going to read basically the prophetic word for 24, and I'll go a little bit more deeper into it if I'm able to, and um, I'll post a couple things here showing that I I did in fact post it. It just was kind of hidden because I didn't do a video until now. So prophetic word for 2024, and again, I know it's a little late, but I have my own reasons. Year of high favor. Last year, I prophesied that this year, 23. So last year, which was like like mid to end of 22, I prophesied that this year, 23, would be the year of healing. So this was again last year of healing, and those who did do the work, who went through the work, did the work for the healing, would receive great favor. What I wasn't aware was how true both sides would be. I have seen, and when I say both sides, I mean those who didn't do the the healing, which I'll get to. I have seen countless people speak on and talk about the healing they have gone through this year, again in 23. Not to mention myself going through tremendous healing that I had been trying to do for many years. Unfortunately, not all healing comes as how we imagined. And of course, that's the whole thing with my dad. We just lost my dad suddenly. We weren't expecting it. At the end of the dream last year, and that was 22, I believe. If I'm getting my dates correct here. It it was told to me that those who would go through the healing would receive great favor. It wasn't until a month ago, and this was again last year, so about August, September timeframe, that I realized that the favor that was being referred to in the dream was being referred to for 24. All those who did the work for 2023 would receive high favor for 2024. And boy, have I seen the favor begin. Again, this was at the mid to end of 23. And no, I'm not talking about the prosperity gospel hyper focus of do this and you'll get that. That avoids doing the difficult stuff. It's like almost like being like having a genie. It doesn't work like that. I guess the prosperity thing is not focused on self-improvement or conforming yourself to Christ. This is But what I'm talking about, this is God's reward to those who have done the difficult task of healing and forgiveness. unfortunately, there will always be those who refuse to do the work and the healing, just like we saw in 21, where following God would be rebuilding their foundation, came known as deconstruction, versus not following God, where people left their faith altogether. And then 22, God breaking unhealthy cycles. If they're following God, so they're breaking unhealthy cycles versus not following God and basically continuing in those cycles. There will always be those who go the opposite way and do the opposite thing that they need to do, and those who did not do the work and refuse to grow and heal will receive the exact opposite. I can say right now that I saw several people that I've known in my life and know currently, known in the past and current, that continue the cycle. And whenever I saw this, it made me sad. No, when I said receive the exact opposite, instead of it being highly favored or blessed, means that this year would seem like basically like a curse. And this goes along with what is described in Deuteronomy 32:15 through 28. Deuteronomy 13 or Deuteronomy 32, 1 through 4 describes what it looks like to be highly favored by God. Verses 15 through 28 describes what it looks like to be not favored. Well, if not cursed, and it'll seem like they are basically cursed if they do not go with that. So 2024, this year's favor is obviously not to supersede any regular favor that people have, that people receive by following God. It's just an extra or an increased amount of favor or blessing that they will receive for going through that stuff. Now, I also had a dream last year in December that I'll be posting probably here soon that goes along with this prophetic word, but I'll release that either later this week or later this week or next week. And I also feel the need to say that obviously, even with a year of high favor, high blessing, that does not remove the regular ups and downs of everyday life, because even when people are getting blessed left and right, they still have to deal with the regular ups and downs of life, because they still have to continue the everyday healing. Prophetic word for each year so far is the building blocks of what I've been calling the blueprints, which I'm still working on putting together, but they're stepping stones. And so let's say the deconstruction that went on in 21 is one step of constantly going back and making sure, rethinking everything, building with God, basically, making sure that your foundation is good and secure, and then continuing on, but kind of rebuilding your foundation in all the different areas of your life. So it's not something that's going to just stop. The same with stopping unhealthy cycles. That's going to be a continuous thing in your life, which is basically the process of like purification. Some people call it sanctification. That's a lifelong process. And then, of course, the healing, we're always having to go through healing. That's just part of life. So each of these things is not going to be a start stop. It's supposed to be meant as a blueprint for a process. And each time we complete that healing, we get favor or blessing. And that's what we're being shown, but in a much longer process. We're basically being shown this of like, okay, this is how this stuff functions. And I'm also not saying that those who didn't do the healing last year can never get any kind of blessing or high favor. They can, but it's going to be after, because the blessing and favor for this year is meant for those who did this stuff last year. So obviously, if you, in your own individual cycles, let's say after this year or whatever, you continue to break the cycles, do the healing, and then you receive the healing or you receive the blessing and favor that comes with going through that healing. It's that kind of thing. So I encourage everyone, leave a comment, let me know if like what your blessing for this year look like, or if unfortunately you see yourself as the one who is going through the the less favored, the cursed side of things if you didn't do the work, and that's an unfortunate thing, but that doesn't mean that you're screwed for the rest of your life. No, just different seasons, that's all. But leave a comment, and I hope everyone has a great week.